And Donald Trump said, do not solve this problem. As long as it is broken, then it will be politically beneficial for us. And so it is a problem not just for Democrats. It's a problem for the entire country that Republicans do not want to solve any sort of issue with immigration. They are completely uninterested in addressing undocumented people, in addressing a path to citizenship.
Well, they do want to address undocumented people by removing them. I mean, that's what the president is attempting now.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez walked into that NPR interview with her usual swagger, the friendly media, the softball questions, the chance to spew her radical talking points unchallenged. But what happened next left her visibly shaken, scrambling for words, and exposed as never before. One question. That's all it took. One simple question about Trump that sent her carefully constructed narrative crashing down around her. For years, AOC has painted a dystopian picture of America under Trump, a dictatorship, an authoritarian regime, a kleptocracy where dissenters are silenced. But when an NPR host, not Fox News, not Newsmax, but NPR, asked her to provide a single example of Democrats being intimidated or silenced, she crumbled. What followed wasn't just a political misstep. It was the moment millions of Americans saw through the facade and realized the emperor has no clothes. You're about to witness the exact moment when one of the left's most prominent voices was forced to confront reality. And the result was nothing short of devastating. This isn't partisan spin. This is raw footage that Democrats desperately hoped would never see the light of day. Before I play you the clip that has the entire Democratic Party in damage control mode, let's set the stage for what makes this moment so utterly damning. For years, AOC and her progressive allies have been crying wolf about Trump being a dictator, a fascist, a tyrant bent on destroying democracy. They've compared him to Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, every authoritarian monster from the history books. This rhetoric isn't just hyperbole. It's dangerous. It's designed to terrify ordinary Americans, to make them believe their very freedom hangs in the balance, to justify any means necessary to stop Trump, including the unprecedented weaponization of our justice system against a political opponent. So when AOC sat down with NPR, she expected to deliver her usual dire warnings about the end of democracy, to paint a picture of cowering Democrats, afraid to speak out against the coming Trump regime, to reinforce the narrative that we're one election away from the end of America as we know it. There was just one problem. Reality. When the NPR host asked if Democrats were feeling intimidated or silenced, AOC immediately launched into her rehearsed talking points. This is what authoritarians do, what kleptocracies do, what corrupt administrations do. But then came the follow-up that changed everything. Do you think other Democrats are watching their words? This should have been an easy question for AOC. If Trump truly is the dictator she claims, surely she could name countless examples of Democrats being silenced or intimidated. Instead, we got this stunning admission. I cannot think of or point to any individuals who have said that. Let that sink in. The same woman who constantly warns about Trump's supposed authoritarianism couldn't name a single Democrat who has actually been silenced or intimidated. Not one. After years of apocalyptic warnings when asked for evidence, she came up empty. This wasn't a gotcha question from a hostile interviewer. This was NPR, the friendliest possible venue for a progressive politician. And still, she had nothing. No examples, no evidence, just empty rhetoric. But AOC wasn't finished digging her own hole. Instead of admitting the obvious, that her authoritarian claims were grossly exaggerated, she doubled down with even more outlandish language. She claimed Democrats were preparing for Trump's supposed crackdown by looking into litigation and assembling teams. As one commentator aptly noted, if you listened to this interview without context, you'd think we were living under Mussolini or Stalin. AOC was describing a country that simply doesn't exist. A fantasy world where dissent is crushed, where opposition politicians are hunted down, where speaking out means risking everything. Meanwhile, back in reality, just a week earlier, 6 Democratic senators released a video telling members of the military and intelligence agencies to disobey illegal orders, without specifying what those orders might be. They weren't arrested. They weren't silenced. They weren't intimidated. They faced criticism, yes, but that's how democracy works. The NPR host, to his credit, didn't let AOC's claims go unchallenged. He pointed out the obvious counterargument. Many Republicans believe it's actually Democrats who have weaponized government power against them. AOC's response was truly astonishing. In what way? She asked, seemingly bewildered that anyone could possibly think the justice system had been weaponized against Trump and his allies. In what way? As if the past 4 years never happened. As if we didn't witness the unprecedented spectacle of a former president facing 91 felony charges across 4 separate cases in the lead-up to an election. As if we didn't see Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon thrown in jail. As if hundreds of conservative individuals and groups weren't surveilled. The bubble AOC lives in must be hermetically sealed. Her apparent shock that anyone could see political motivation behind these prosecutions reveals a politician completely detached from the concerns of half the country. But her dismissal of these concerns as baseless conspiracy theories didn't just expose her partisan blindness. It revealed the breathtaking hypocrisy at the heart of the progressive movement. The same people who see authoritarianism in every Trump tweet cannot imagine how their own actions might appear authoritarian to others. The interview took an even more revealing turn when the conversation shifted to immigration. Here, AOC's disconnect from reality went from concerning to downright alarming. When asked why immigration was hurting Democrats with working-class voters, AOC immediately blamed Republicans, claiming they weaponized the issue and don't want to solve the problem. This is the standard Democratic deflection: deny responsibility, blame the opposition, refuse to acknowledge the legitimate concerns of voters. But something remarkable happened next. The NPR host, again not a conservative pundit but an NPR journalist, pushed back. Well, they do want to address undocumented people by removing them. I mean, that's what the president is attempting now. This simple statement of fact, that Republicans do in fact have a policy position on immigration, seemed to throw AOC completely off balance. She had no response because her entire argument rests on demonizing the opposition rather than engaging with their actual positions. The most revealing moment came when AOC tried to minimize the border crisis by claiming that overwhelmingly illegal immigration comes from visa overstays, not border crossings. This might have been true years ago, but after Biden's catastrophic border policies, it's demonstrably false. Under Biden's watch, over 8 million people have illegally crossed our southern border, more than the entire population of 38 states. This isn't a Republican talking point. These are official government numbers that even the Biden administration can't deny. AOC's attempt to downplay this crisis shows a politician more committed to ideology than truth, more interested in winning arguments than solving problems, more focused on deflecting blame than acknowledging reality. And her solution? A path to citizenship for millions who broke our laws to enter the country. Never mind the message this sends to the millions more waiting to enter legally. Never mind the slap in the face to legal immigrants who follow the rules. Never mind the strain on our social services, our schools, our hospitals. The NPR interview exposed the three central failings of AOC and the progressive movement she represents: a detachment from reality, a refusal to engage with opposing viewpoints, and a tendency to catastrophize for political gain. Her claims about Trump's authoritarianism collapsed under the slightest scrutiny. Her deflections on immigration fell apart when confronted with basic facts. Her dismissal of concerns about weaponized justice revealed a stunning lack of self-awareness. This wasn't just a bad interview. It was a window into the soul of a political movement that has lost touch with the concerns of ordinary Americans. A movement that sees fascism in tweets, but not in the unprecedented prosecution of political opponents. A movement that calls border security racism, while communities across America struggle with the consequences of open borders. The most damning part of this interview wasn't what AOC said, it was what she couldn't say. When asked for a single example of Democrats being silenced, she had nothing. When confronted with the reality of the border crisis, she retreated to outdated talking points. When asked about the weaponization of justice, she feigned ignorance. This is why millions of Americans are turning away from the Democratic Party. Not because they've been misinformed or fallen for propaganda, but because they can see with their own eyes that the party's rhetoric no longer matches reality. They can see the crisis at the border. They can see the political targeting of opponents. They can see the double standards in our justice system. And they can see politicians like AOC gaslighting them, telling them not to believe their lying eyes. The immigration issue perfectly encapsulates this disconnect. AOC calls them undocumented people, as if they just misplaced their IDs. This linguistic sleight of hand is designed to blur the distinction between legal and illegal immigration to make lawbreaking seem like a mere technicality. But Americans know the difference. They understand that a nation without borders isn't a nation at all. They recognize the profound unfairness of allowing millions to cut the line while others wait years to enter legally. They see the strain on their communities, their schools, their hospitals, and they resent being called racists or xenophobes for wanting what every other nation on earth takes for granted: secure borders and an orderly immigration process. This NPR interview reveals something deeper than just one politician's failings. It exposes the fundamental dishonesty at the heart of progressive politics today. The constant catastrophizing, the demonization of opponents, the refusal to engage with legitimate concerns, the manipulation of language to obscure rather than clarify. These aren't just rhetorical strategies. They're signs of a movement that has lost confidence in its ability to win on the merits, that fears its ideas cannot stand up to scrutiny, that believes the American people must be frightened rather than persuaded. Why else would AOC insist Trump is an authoritarian without evidence? Why else would she downplay a border crisis that even Biden's own officials acknowledge? Why else would she pretend not to understand how the justice system has been weaponized? The answer is simple: because the truth doesn't serve her agenda. The immigration system is indeed broken and unfair, as AOC claims, but not in the way she suggests. It's unfair to the millions waiting to enter legally while others jump the line. It's unfair to the community struggling to provide services for a sudden influx of newcomers. It's unfair to the legal immigrants who followed every rule, paid every fee, waited every day for their chance at the American dream. And it's profoundly unfair to lump together those who broke the law to enter the country with those who respected our sovereignty and our procedures. These are not the same, and pretending they are isn't compassion. It's a form of moral confusion that undermines the very concept of citizenship. What this NPR interview ultimately reveals is the growing desperation of a political movement that has lost touch with mainstream America. AOC entered that studio confident in her narrative of Trump the dictator, Republicans the villains, and Democrats the virtuous defenders of democracy. She left exposed as someone trafficking in fear rather than facts. Someone who sees authoritarianism everywhere except in her own side's actions. Someone who cannot or will not acknowledge the legitimate concerns of millions of Americans about border security, about equal justice under law, about the weaponization of government power. This isn't just a political failure. It's a moral one. It's the failure to recognize that crying wolf about authoritarianism while supporting the unprecedented targeting of political opponents isn't just hypocritical. It's dangerous. It's the failure to see that dismissing concerns about illegal immigration as mere weaponization isn't just tone deaf. It's insulting to the communities bearing the brunt of these policies. If this breakdown of AOC's NPR meltdown opened your eyes to the hollow core of progressive fear-mongering, hit that subscribe button right now. We're going to keep bringing you the stories others won't touch, the clips others won't show, and the truth others try to hide. And while you're at it, check out our new merch store. The link is in the description. Every purchase helps us continue bringing you stories that the mainstream media tries to bury. The gap between AOC's dystopian warnings and the reality of American life has never been more glaring than in this interview. The contradiction between her claims of authoritarianism and her inability to cite a single example of silenced Democrats has never been more obvious. This isn't about left versus right. It's about truth versus fiction. It's about whether we're going to allow our politics to be driven by facts or by fear. It's about whether we're going to address real problems like the border crisis or pretend they don't exist, because acknowledging them might be politically inconvenient. AOC entered that NPR studio expecting another platform for her unchallenged talking points. She left having revealed the intellectual bankruptcy at the heart of progressive politics, and no amount of tears, real or metaphorical, can change that devastating reality. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep thinking. Because in a world where politicians like AOC expect you to believe their narratives over your own eyes and ears, critical thinking isn't just a skill, it's an act of resistance.